After a long battle, your opponent is at a low life total. You control a Maniform Hellkite that cannot attack this turn, but has a triggered ability that reads, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX Red Dragon Illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. Your opponent controls Leovold the Rot Cleaver, a 3/3 zombie warrior with the triggered ability, whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. Scathed Zombie, a 2/2 zombie creature. Puppet Factory, an artifact with the continuous effect, creature tokens you control lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 3/3. Altar of Dementia, an artifact with the activated ability, sacrifice a creature, target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. And Gaia Reach Sanitarium, a land with the activated ability, each player draws a card, then discards a card. In your hand, you have Flame Blessed Bolt, an instant that reads, Flame Blessed Bolt deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. And Shatter, an instant that reads, destroy target artifact. Needing to do 2 damage to defeat your opponent, you cast Shatter and target the Altar of Dementia. The Maniform Hellkite triggers from your cast. Your opponent responds by sacrificing the Scathed Zombies to the Altar of Dementia and targets you. Leovold triggers and creates a 3/3 zombie token creature from the continuous effect of the Puppet Factory. They sacrifice the zombie token to the altar, targeting you, and create another zombie. This repeats until your entire deck is milled into the graveyard. They activate Gaia Reach Sanitarium, and you're forced to draw a card, and you lose the game. What happened to your Shatter? Why was your opponent able to continue to sacrifice to the Altar of Dementia? Why do we hate milling so much when it's the drawing of cards that kill us? Hi, my name is Lynn, and my focus is to help answer some of these questions while teaching you the concepts so that you learn it's not magic. But before I get back to it, a bit of news goes on the stack. The 5th annual Leovold happened this week, an award show where legendaries gather and celebrate their keywords, flavor text, and abilities. This celebration was hosted by none other than Golos, proving yet again that there is life after being banned. The winner of my favorite category, most menacing card with a desk job, went to Kambal, Consul of Allocations. He beat out newcomers Mordenkainen and Obsessive Astronomer. Mordenkainen, you may have every book in the known multiverse, but you don't have compromising pictures of me. Kambal, I can pay. I just need a few more subscribers to my channel. All right, in this scenario, your opponent used a combination of cards with activated abilities, triggered abilities, and continuous effects that gave them control of the stack. Your spell never had a chance to resolve because your opponent buried it. I've read that mistakes are the best teachers, and I agree with that, but I want to imagine a time when you were able to stop your opponent's combo from overtaking the stack. Your opponent is the active player and has priority. They sacrifice Scathed Zombies to the Altar of Dementia, targeting you. Leovold's triggered ability is placed on the stack. Your opponent passes. You respond and cast Shatter, targeting the Altar of Dementia. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Shatter resolves because the target is valid. The Altar of Dementia is placed in the graveyard. Your opponent passes. You pass. The Leovold triggered ability resolves and your opponent creates a zombie. Your opponent passes. You pass. The Altar of Dementia's activated ability resolves and you mill 2 cards. In this scenario, your removal spell destroyed your opponent's Altar of Dementia before they milled you out. Your opponent activated the Altar of Dementia, and you responded with your removal. In the first scenario, you led with Shatter, and your opponent responded by sacrificing to the altar. So your choice to take action first versus responding changed the outcome. But it's not always about who shot first. I want to return to that time where you responded, but this time your opponent controls one more zombie. Your opponent is the active player and has priority. They control an additional zombie token creature. They sacrifice scathed zombies to the altar of dementia targeting you. Will help triggers. Your opponent passes. You respond and cast Shatter, targeting the altar of dementia. You pass. They sacrifice the zombie token to the altar of dementia, targeting you. Will help triggers. Your opponent passes. You pass. The will help triggered ability resolves and your opponent creates a zombie. Your opponent passes. You pass. The altar of dementia activated ability resolves and you mill 2 cards. They sacrifice the zombie token to the altar of dementia, targeting you. Will help triggers. On and on and on until your entire deck is milled. In this scenario, you responded to the sacrifice trigger, but your opponent generated another one. This additional zombie to sacrifice enabled your opponent to gain control of the stack, exactly as it happened in the first scenario when you led with your removal spell. Your choice to lead or respond with removal does not always change the outcome. What's more important is where on the stack you place your removal. To gauge whether you can defeat your opponent's combo, first, count your opponent's abilities and effects that can continue the combo. In these scenarios, it's been the zombies on the battlefield. And then second, count your spells and abilities that can disrupt the combo. In these scenarios, that's Shatter. Finally, compare their count to your count. In the last scenario, your opponent started with 2 zombies. They sacrificed 1. When you failed to disrupt their combo, their count was 1 and your count was 1. Your counts were equal. In the scenario before that, your opponent started with 1 zombie. They sacrificed it. When you successfully disrupted the combo, their count was 0 and your count was 1. Your count was greater. So if your count of spells and abilities that can disrupt the combo is greater than your opponent's, you may be able to stop it. So it begs the question, should Flame Blessed Bolt be considered? If you target the scathed zombies, your opponent will remove it in response, because when an opponent has a sacrifice outlet on the battlefield that activates at instant speed, any permanents you target that can be sacrificed will be sacrificed. So Flame Blessed Bolt would not destroy the scathed zombies. However, its use does change your opponent's count. With that in mind, I'm ready to return to that first scenario. You are the active player and have priority. You count 1 zombie that can aid your opponent's combo. You count 2 spells that can disrupt your opponent's combo. You cast Flame Blessed Bolt and target the scathed zombies. The Maniform Hellkite triggers. You pass. They respond and sacrifice the scathed zombies to the altar of dementia, targeting you. Will help triggers. They pass. You respond and cast Shatter, targeting the altar of dementia. The Maniform Hellkite triggers. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Maniform Hellkite triggered ability resolves, and you create a 2/2 dragon illusion with flying and haste. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Shatter resolves because the target is valid. The altar of dementia is placed in the graveyard. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Will Help triggered ability resolves, and your opponent creates a zombie. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Altar of Dementia activated ability resolves, and you mill 2 cards. You pass. Your opponent passes. The Maniform Hellkite triggered ability resolves, and you create a 1/1 Dragon illusion with flying and haste. Your opponent passes. You pass. The Flame Blessed Bolt does not resolve because the target is not valid. With 2 hasted creatures, you move to combat, declare attackers, and defeat your opponent. To disrupt this combo, you counted and compared your removal to your opponent's opportunities to activate their combo. With those values being greater, you led and pushed them into activating their ability. This created a moment where you were able to dismantle their combo. Another tactic is to use a spell like Crossing Grip, which has Split Second, a static ability that functions only while it's on the stack. And it reads, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast other spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. If you cast Crossing Grip and target the Altar of Dementia, your opponent would no longer be able to activate it until the spell resolves, preventing them from sacrificing anything in response. But, watch out. Split Second does not stop triggered abilities or activated abilities that are mana abilities. So an opponent with an Ashnod's Altar and a pile of zombies can have a big old barbecue in, I guess, less than Split Second. But Split Second is a topic for another day. If topics like this interest you, I encourage you to go watch the Command Zone's Weird and Wacky Rules and Interactions episode of their podcast. Thank you for watching. I hope you gained an understanding of how combos work on the stack and learned some tactics that will prevent your opponent from running away with the game. If there are more tactics that you have found effective against combos like these, share them in a comment to help me and future players demystify the rules of Magic.